Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 192, which we're going to talk about what now appears to be the imminent UFO disclosure that is going to be headed our way. And I say imminent because it does seem as though it's going to be pretty hard for our government not to roll something out. Is it going to be the truth and, all the information that we hope to find out? My guess would be it's going to be, a mixture. We have enough whistleblowers, supposedly 40 now, if we, 750 if we go by what Stephen Greer says, but if we go by what David Grush says, there's 40 people that are lined up and ready to squeal if the government doesn't basically share with the world what they know. So my guess would be that pretty soon here, especially with the regular news conferences and the congressional group that's pushing for disclosure, my guess is that pretty soon here, and I say relatively speaking pretty soon, I think it's honestly going to play out probably around the time of the election. I think we're going to see some footage that we've never seen before. I think we're going to definitely get some information that I think is legit. I think we're all going to hear at some point our president, whoever that may be, actually give that presidential speech. The ladies and gentlemen, we are not alone. Which, that will be a pretty big moment, I would say, in the history of the world. If we actually get to the point where the president stands up and says, we have been contacted or visited by intelligent life from another planet. But this got me thinking about a lot of other things, and let me start out by making a few comments on some really interesting stuff I've noticed coming out of Hollywood. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but there's a film called The Creator that's on Apple television. And it's a sci-fi film set in the future. Very good movie. And it looks absolutely stunning visually. And I first heard about this film because it's kind of a landmark film in regard to filmmaking. Because the whole thing was shot on this mirrorless, handheld, consumer level camera that you can get for like less than $10,000. And the behind the scenes footage of them using this tiny little camera it was incredible because the footage is just stunning. But the storyline is really interesting. It's about the emergence of AI and humanity. And it kind of shows how initially, just like Elon is doing right now with his robot company, these robots were created to help people in their daily routine, their daily lives, and they eventually just become smarter and smarter and smarter until they begin to integrate into society. But the belief the whole time is that, listen, these are not human beings, even though they appear to be in every way, except for the fact that you could see the machinery like in the back of their head and, in their neck and parts of their body. But their emotions in their face and the way they communicate, they're peaceful and loving and they just appear to be human in almost every aspect. And this film kind of shows how these AI beings begin to kind of take over society. And there's a breakaway society that wants nothing to do with it. That is just like, this is, bad for the future, bad for everything. And there's a big part of the world that supports the AI and feels as though it's senseless to fight it. It's coming no matter what. It's already here. It's already integrated into society. And then there's the breakaway society that's like, fuck that. We're going to kill all these things. We're going to track them down and hunt them down and basically end them. And then something unique happens. There is a child that is born that unexpectedly, somehow, very much a miracle, becomes a fully integrated, sentient human being. Essentially, a new race is actually spawn of part robot, part human. And this child has a consciousness and the ability to communicate with computers and robots as though they're, sentient people. And she could shut things down and start things and stop attacks from happening, stop weaponry from working. But essentially, the whole film is the breakaway civilization that wants to destroy all the AI beings. They're hunting for this little girl robot slash human that has now become fully sentient. Because they know with her lies a completely new race that will be far more difficult to basically rid the world of. To make a long story short, it's kind of weird the way at the end of the film, and this is a spoiler alert because I need to make a point here. At the end of the film, she basically escapes and her dad helps her, and her dad is fully human, although he was a soldier that was injured, so he's got like mechanical arms and mechanical legs, but like his mind is human. He's completely human. He sacrifices himself and he dies to basically save his now sentient daughter, and she returns to Earth and joins the community of AI beings, and in the process of doing so, she basically shuts down and defeats the humans. And you see at the end of the film that basically the humans are getting wiped out. And that's like the end of the film. And it's done in this way where it gives you pause because it's just, the storytelling leads you to root for the robots, the robot slash human sentient beings, as they're just stomping out the human beings. And I remember looking at Laura and I was like, what's going on here? Like, am I feeling happy because the humans are being destroyed right now? Like, what is going on right now? Like, it was really, really unique. And it was done in a way where they just made human beings look absolutely horrible. And granted, look, I said this a while ago, there's not a more cruel species on planet Earth than human beings. The stuff we do to each other as a race, the destructive nature of human beings, the violent nature, our lack of care or concern for the planet as a whole. And obviously I'm not talking about each person individually, but obviously we have a very violent history. And, just watch some, YouTube court videos sometimes of, people in court doing life sentences and stuff, and you find out the most horrific crimes that go down every single day. And so this film does a really good job of kind of showing human beings as being this just, these ruthless, heartless beasts that could just care about anyone but themselves. And, look, while those things are true about humanity, I also still believe that there's a lot of beautiful things about humanity as well. And, I think humans do care about love, and they do care about family, and You know, I think most humans are pretty good people, and maybe I'm naive, but this film just really makes that humans out to be just the worst. And it just got me thinking about the time frame that we're in right now, and the time that we're in right now, and the fact that like I've done a podcast before about the fact that our military and our government annually meets with the head of Hollywood studios all the time. And they basically give them their agenda of what they want pushed. I mean, it's no secret that, or it's no secret why Top Gun remained in the theaters for like the better of a year before it was, streamed. I mean, they wanted to make sure every human being on planet Earth saw that movie. Which, of course, not only made, Americans out to be, you know, the the best people on Earth, the heroes all day long, and but it also set up the fact that there was this incredible tech that's coming, and this Night Star plane that goes like Mach 10, and like all the things that our government would want us to see and get stoked about. They were all encompassed in, Top Gun. And then I just recently saw Oppenheimer, which I was extremely familiar with that story. When I was in college, I actually did a paper on Oppenheimer, having gone to Iowa State. There were a lot of tentacles and roots to the Manhattan Project that actually ran through Iowa State, and some very famous names that also contributed to the making of the bomb. But I was very familiar with that story, but I don't think it's any accident that the Oppenheimer story just happens to come out right now. Right at the time when the UFO narrative is like, front page news every single night. And, the reason I think, that's really interesting is because we keep hearing this narrative over and over again that, and it's incorrect, by the way, but people say, we started seeing UFOs and they were really reported like around 1947. And that's, when we started testing the bombs. Well, I mean, look, yes, that's true in the sense that there were a ton of sightings of UFOs at that time. But, we know that UFO sightings literally go back as long as time has existed. I mean, the earliest cave paintings in the world are riddled with what appears to be UFOs and star people. The oldest known denominations and religions, all of them reference star people and ships and saucers flying through the air, and right down to the Bible. Of course, you've all heard about Ezekiel's wheel, and they've been around forever. People have been seeing stuff in the sky forever. I mean, literally, as long as we can look back in history. But it is true, like I said, that during the nuclear era, that they were showing up everywhere, constantly. Which got me wondering, how real is that idea? Because we have documented cases, like in the case of George Salas, who was the weapons controller of Malmstrom Air Force Base. He was the gentleman who came forward, I guess you can call him a whistleblower, who came forward and, broke the news on the UFOs that appeared over Malmstrom, and one by one shut down all of our Minutemen nuclear warheads. And that's just one of many stories where UFOs have either been seen circling or flying near nuclear bombs, or they appeared right after a detonation. I I don't know if you guys know this or not, but very true story. The Oppenheimer movie did not include it, but after the initial detonation of Trinity, there absolutely was a UFO sighting of a disc-like object that appeared just above where the detonation was. This was seen and documented by everybody that was there. I'm surprised that Oppenheimer didn't include it. I read somewhere online that said, oh, there is a UFO included in Oppenheimer, but it's like an Easter egg. It's like a hidden thing. I watched that scene over and over again. I didn't see it anywhere. But they say that it's in there. But I didn't see it. No one else has pointed it out to me yet. But that is true that after that happened, there were UFO sightings. But I think this is something that we should all take a close look at, because the one question that still has not been answered yet, and it's the biggest and most obvious question, and I think everybody's been saying it since the beginning, and I hope that the reason we haven't gotten the answer yet is because it's not something horrible, because the answer, there's some pretty horrible answers to this question, which is why now? Like, why now? It's not like there's anything that humanity's doing that is, when I say humanity, I mean the everyday person. It's not like we've done anything to force the hand of, the government. I mean, let's be real. I mean, the government has seemed like a pretty willing participant, throughout all of this. Approving multiple, pilots to go talk to the New York Times about, these claims, that's a pretty willing participant. Now, I know one of the answers, obviously I made a film about it, was the potential of a fake alien invasion, which I gotta tell you guys, when I first heard about this, I wasn't, like I said, when I got this, stack of papers from Skyfall, I was interested in UFOs, but man, I had nothing compared to what I do now as far as information goes and things that I've studied and looked into. I was just a casual, I guess, interested fan of UFOs because it was a mystery. And the amount of information that I've taken in, since then, and had to digest and decide what I think is real or wrong, or what's fake and what isn't. I mean, it is a conundrum, man. I mean, the UFO world is a fucking rabbit hole. And the UFO world is also weird because it seems like diehard fans of the UFO narrative, they're just aggressive, man. There's some comments sometimes that come across some of my videos where someone will say their opinion on something, and someone will, see that and they'll respond, oh, you're whatever, you're just an idiot that's been, you believe anything that's told you, it's not this, it's this, and like both ideas will be completely far-fetched. But there's this aggressive nature to a lot of people who feel as though they know what's going on in the UFO world that was foreign to me. And I was just like, man, it isn't really like that in the ghost community. In the sense that everybody, it seems like in the ghost world, we're all pretty aware that we don't know for sure what's going on. And we're trying to piece together, potential answers through experience. And that's why there's so much ghost hunting. But with UFOs, it's one of those things where you kind of got to be there and witness it, or else it's all story, And it's also highly faked, right? There's so many fake things on the web about it. So when I first heard about this potential of of fake alien invasion, even when I was reading everything that Skyfall sent me. At first I was like, there's just no way, man. There's no way they could pull that off. And then I just, started looking into it, and then it's like, whoa, Jesus, yeah, no, there is a way. Not only is there a way they could pull it off, there's a lot of very good reason to believe that this is in fact something real that they've been trying to do or to think if they could do, try to figure out if they have the technology yet. I do think they have the technology now to do it, but I don't want to get so focused on that potential, of that happening, if a false flag, fake alien invasion. I don't want to get so focused on it that I don't consider what other, reasons could be, other options could be, or other reasons for the government kind of laying this out. And the one that always comes up that I do think there is something to it is the interest in nuclear weapons. And in making Two-Face the Gray, just because I had to fact check and read so much, background information and all the stuff that I was getting from Skyfall, I did dig into the nuclear stuff a lot. And it is pretty crazy as to what actually occurred in the 40s and what's occurring right now. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but there's such thing as it's called the Doomsday Clock. The Doomsday Clock is actually ran by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. They were a group that was actually formed by the Manhattan Project, people involved in it. And it's their job to assess basically how close we are to a nuclear world war. And the closer we get to midnight on this clock, it's supposed to represent how much danger there is right now of us having a world-ending war. And what's really scary is at the beginning of 2023, we moved from 100 seconds to 90 seconds to midnight on this countdown, on this clock. And that is the closest we have ever been since 1947 on this clock. So they're saying that we are in more danger right now, and it is more likely now than any time between 1947 and right now. And we're talking about the Cold War, everything. They're saying right now, this second, is the most dangerous time in the history of our world in regard to having a nuclear war and a post-nuclear apocalyptic fallout, which is pretty terrifying. And, I would just love to believe that there is technology today that could prevent that from actually happening, but that really isn't the case. The nuclear weapons that we supposedly have today, which I'll get into some of the sizes here in a second, they would, if we get into a nuclear war with one of the superpowers, China or Russia, the world as we know it's over. I mean, that's it. And right now they're saying that we're closer to this outcome than any time in history, which is wild to think about. So why would aliens care, right? If you were an alien and you were watching this, I mean, I could see you going, hey, that's, they're a pretty weird species down there, just blowing each other up and shit. At first I was like, well, sure they would care. Those are pretty big bombs, and but then I started adding it all up, and it's like, well, no, we're on the crest of like exploring the galaxy right now. And then you go back and you go, well, wait a minute, how dangerous are we as a civilization? For real, like how many bombs do we have? How many have we really detonated? I was thinking, at the height of testing, I was thinking, what did we detonate? 30, 40, maybe, maximum, to see the power of, nuclear bombs? And when I looked into it, it absolutely blew my freaking mind in regard to nuclear tests. And, how many nuclear tests we've done. I wish we could all sit in a room right now and you guys could throw out numbers. But would you be shocked if I told you that the United States has conducted 1,054 nuclear tests between 1945 and 1992? We have let off 1,054 nuclear bombs on planet Earth, and 216 in the atmosphere, underwater, and in space. 216 nuclear bombs. And that's just us. Remember, we have competition here. What do you think the Russians did, when it came to, doing tests of their own? Not to be outdone, they have detonated 969 nuclear bombs. 969, in which they've also let off 219 of them in the atmosphere, underwater, and in space. So between us and Russia alone, over 500 nuclear bombs have been let off in the sky, in space, and underwater. I mean, imagine if you were another species, smarter than us, right? That maybe potentially seeded life here. And you're watching close to 2,000 nuclear bombs go off. We have no idea what these things do to the fabric of space-time. We have no idea. No idea whatsoever. And we kept making them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until finally we made Castle Bravo, which was 15 megatons, which is a massive, massive, massive nuclear weapon. And not to be outdone, the Russians made a 57 megaton nuclear bomb called the Tsar Bomba. Initially, it was going to be 100 tons. And at the last second, they're like, hey, yeah, we don't know what that'll do, so let's scale it back. To put this in perspective as far as how powerful the Tsar Bomba was, the biggest nuclear explosion ever let off, the Tsar Bomba, it was 3,800 times bigger and stronger than Hiroshima. 3,800 times stronger and bigger than Hiroshima. It's just insane. I mean, these are massive, massive weapons, and that was the last ones that the Russians let off. Now, supposedly, now this has not been confirmed, but it is rumored that America has what they call a Doomsday device, which is 300 megatons. The Tsar Bomba was 50 megatons. Supposedly, we have one that is 300 megatons. Rumored, not confirmed, but would you be surprised if we did? Would you be surprised if we did? And just for the sake of awe, this is mind-blowing footage. Check this out. This is the Tsar Bomba blowing up. This is the Russians letting off the Tsar Bomba, a 50 megaton nuclear weapon. Check this out.
Солнце. Шар превращается в колоссальный светящийся купол. Яркое свечение еще продолжается. В этом опыте оно длится необычайно долго. ударная волна. Постепенно пары воды, сконденсировавшиеся за фронтом ударной волны, рассеиваются, раскаленное облако уходит вверх, увлекая за собой гигантской пылевой...
Now, could you imagine that? Like I said, being a species that's watching us just ignite these massive, massive weapons that are... this is more than just, fire and boom. I mean, this is energy, vibrations. It's what, like I said, we don't know what this does to space-time. We know what it does to anything close to it. We know what the nuclear fallout does. We know that if we got into a war with another country and we each let off a dozen of these things, it's going to create a nuclear winter. And what I mean by that is what most people would die from if a nuclear war went off. Yes, you would have your people that would die upon impact. And of course, you have your people that would die from the nuclear fallout. But those explosions would essentially create a dust cloud in the upper atmosphere that would completely block out the sun. And this would last for so long that would create a nuclear winter where everything would just freeze. I mean, that would be the fate of mankind if that happens, which begs the question, why on earth would you build something like that? Like a 300 megaton bomb, or ever even anything like the Tsar bomb, anything in general that's a nuclear weapon we should have avoided. But the thought that somewhere we have a 300 ton or 300 megaton nuclear weapon, that is some terrifying shit. Because nobody wins. As they say, that's the Doomsday Weapon. The reason I bring this up is, what if the answer as to why now isn't, oh, the energy elite wants to stay in control, they want their money and power and influence to remain the same. What if we just know that we're coming really, really close to an imminent nuclear war, and we know that if we do it, that if that happens, that there will be an alien species that steps in and either tries to stop it or either turns on us. But you wouldn't really be turning on us now, would it? If we're doing things like letting off 300 megaton, bombs, and we're about ready to start traversing to Mars and throughout the galaxy as explorers with those kind of weapons and that kind of ability and a history of destruction like that, it's kind of hard to see an alien species turning on us as them actually turning on us. To me, it would be them dealing with the problem. It'd be like, hey, these fucking humans are insane. The stuff that they're doing is completely nonsensical. We cannot let these guys rip a hole in the fabric of space-time and destroy this incredible creation that, we made, that we seeded, this planet Earth, life, this beauty of nature. We cannot let this one species do this. Now, admittedly, I'm just spitballing here. There's nothing, that I have to say for sure this is the scenario. And not at all. This is pure imagination. It's like me just saying, what if? But there are some things about that scenario. We are a species that is nonsensical when it comes to weapons and the way we treat ourselves. And I think it's just weird that at the same time that UFOs, UAPs, ETs, at the same time in history that we're on the verge of our government, making this statement that, yes, we've been contacted, we're not alone. Because, like I said, it's either going to be that or a bunch of people are going to look real stupid. Because there's nowhere else to go now, right? The narrative has been rolled out and set up. It's been rolled out and set up. We've seen all the videos. We've heard all the stories. We've done all that. There's a congressional team that's pushing for disclosure. You know, you have people like Corbell that are, out there saying nonsensical shit like the truth's going to come out the easy way or the hard way. Like he's just hardballing the world. Like we're either going to have confirmation or we're not. And if we are going to, which I tend to believe we're going to, just because the math says we're not alone. The math says we've probably been either contacted, if not seeded. Okay? So, the same time that is happening, and the same time in our history, when this is front page news, and when it's being taken serious now, and when it's like something that there's new about it, there's something new in the news about it every single day. The same time this is going on, we're 90 seconds from midnight. And there's a history with UFOs and nuclear warheads and nuclear tests. So I hope that doesn't mean that we are headed for an imminent nuclear war. Because if that did happen, I do think if there's an alien species that exists, and if they are watching us, I do think that is when they step in. And if we're the country firing bigger bombs, who would the extraterrestrials want to stop? It's probably not going to be the people on the losing end. It's probably going to be us. So I don't know. It's just, these are thoughts. I would love to know your guys' thoughts about this. This does, in a weird way, kind of play into the fake alien invasion theory as well, in the sense that either way, you're making them the bad guy. But again, my thought is if it came down to a nuclear war, nobody has more bombs than us, nobody has bigger bombs than us, nobody has the tech that we have. But I don't know if that's good for us if we're being monitored by a far superior race. If this is all real, right? And I realize this is a massive leap and stretch, and we're being imaginative here. I get it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's healthy to be imaginative, okay? So if this were all real, my hope would be that before the nuclear war ever got started, they would use that tech, just shut everything down and say, yo, listen, we're taking over. Sorry, you're not going to do that. That's not going to go down. We are not going to let you rip a hole in the galaxy and turn your home planet to ash. We're not doing that. Nope. Hopefully, that would be a really happy ending. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that the fact that we are this close to, quote, midnight, and the fact that there's a history there with nuclear weapons and UFOs and allegedly ETs, paying attention to all this, do you think the potential of a nuclear war right now has something to do with, why our government is slow leaking all this stuff and setting us up for some admission of some kind? Let me know what you guys think. I am truly interested to see what your guys' thoughts are about this. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the In a Crowded Room podcast. Much love, everybody. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.